Sarah Chun pressed her back against the broken concrete wall. Her breathing was slow and quiet. She could hear the alien patrol moving through the ruins of what used to be her home city. The sound of their metal feet on broken glass made her stomach tight with old anger. 20-7 years. That was how long the hegemony had owned Earth, 27 years since. The day the sky filled with their ships and humanity learned they were not alone in the universe. Sarah had been 8 years old then. She remembered watching her mother cry as the news showed city after city falling to the aliens. She remembered the taste of ash in the air when the bombs fell. Now she was 35 and leading a team of humans who had never forgotten what was taken from them. "Contact in 30 seconds," whispered Torres through her earpiece. He was watching from a building across the street. 4 of them. Standard patrol pattern. Sarah nodded even though he could not see her. She checked her weapon one more time. It was human-made, built in secret factories hidden in dead space between the stars. The aliens thought all humans were slaves or dead. They were wrong about many things. The patrol rounded the corner. 4 hegemony soldiers in their gray armor walked past the alley where Sarah waited. They were tall and thin, with skin like wet leather. Their faces had too many eyes and mouths that moved wrong when they spoke. Sarah had killed many of them over the years. She knew exactly where to aim, but today was not about killing. Today was about information. She waited until they passed. Then she and her team followed at a distance. The patrol was heading toward the old city center where the aliens had built their mining operation. What used to be Central Park was now a giant hole in the ground. Machines dug deeper every day, pulling rare metals from the earth to send back to hegemony worlds. Sarah remembered playing in that park as a child. She remembered feeding ducks at the pond that no longer existed. The anger in her chest burned hotter. "They are turning toward the processing plant," Torres reported. "Same route as yesterday." "Copy that," Sarah replied. She made a hand signal to the rest of her team. Martinez and Johnson moved to flank the patrol from the other side. Kim stayed back to watch for more aliens. The processing plant was a massive building made of the same gray metal the hegemony used for everything. It rose from the ruins like a cancer. Trucks loaded with stolen earth rolled in and out all day long. The aliens were bleeding the planet dry, just like they had done to hundreds of other worlds. But Sarah and her team were not here to stop the mining. They were here for something much more important. For 3 months they had been watching the plant. They had noticed something strange. Every few days, special trucks would arrive. These trucks were different. They had extra armor and more guards. Whatever they carried was important enough to protect. Last week, Sarah had finally gotten close enough to see what was in one of those trucks. The sight had made her hands shake with rage. The truck was full of children. Human children, kept alive and healthy for some purpose the aliens did not want anyone to know about. Where those children went was what Sarah needed to find out today. The patrol stopped at the main gate of the plant. Sarah and her team took position in the ruins of an old office building. From here they could see the entire compound. Sarah pulled out her scope and began to watch. "Transport incoming," Martinez whispered. "Special truck, just like before." Sarah focused her scope on the approaching vehicle. It was armored and painted the same gray as everything else the hegemony built. But she could see the fear in the eyes of the alien guards riding with it. Whatever was in that truck scared even them. The truck passed through 3 security checkpoints before reaching the center of the compound. It stopped at a building Sarah had never seen trucks enter before. This building was smaller than the others and had no windows. Strange devices sat on its roof, spinning slowly and humming with power. "That is new," Torres said. "That building was not active before." Sarah watched as the truck doors opened. The guards moved quickly like they were afraid of something. They pulled out metal containers the size of coffins and carried them into the windowless building. Sarah counted 12 containers total. "What do you think is in those boxes?" Johnson asked. Sarah did not answer. She was afraid she already knew. For the next hour, they watched the building. More aliens came and went. Scientists, by the look of their different colored uniforms. They carried devices Sarah did not recognize, and moved with the careful steps of people working on something dangerous. Then the humming from the roof devices got louder. Energy spike, Kim reported from her position. She was their tech expert. A former engineer who had learned to read alien equipment. Something big is powering up in there. The air around the building began to shimmer. Sarah had seen this effect before on other worlds where the hegemony conducted their worst experiments. They were doing something to whatever was in those containers. Something that required a lot of power and complete secrecy. Sarah made a decision. That would change everything. We are going in, she said quietly. Sarah, that is suicide, Torres replied. There are too many guards. Not now, tonight, when the main shift changes. Martinez, you and Johnson create a distraction at the east gate. Torres and Kim, you get us an entry point through the north wall. I'm going into that building. What if you are wrong about what is in there? Johnson asked. Sarah thought about the children in the truck. She thought about 27 years of slavery and death. She thought about the billions of humans who had died so the aliens could strip their world bare. Then we die trying to find out, she said. But if I am right, if they are doing what I think they are doing in there, then we have found something that changes everything. As the sun set over the ruined city, Sarah and her team prepared for a mission that would either get them all killed or give humanity its first real hope in almost 3 decades. In a few hours, they would learn that the hegemony had been using Earth for more than just mining. They had been using it as a testing ground for weapons designed to destroy every trace of human life in the galaxy, but they would also learn something else. In their secret labs and hidden facilities, human scientists had not been idle. For 27 years, they had been preparing for this day. They had been building weapons and ships and alliances that the hegemony never saw coming. The war was about to begin again. But this time, humanity would not be caught by surprise. This time, they would be the ones doing the taking. Admiral Marcus Rivera stood in front of a wall of screens that showed star maps from across the galaxy. Each red dot was a human colony. Each blue dot was a hegemony stronghold. Each yellow dot was a place where humans had died fighting for their freedom. There were too many yellow dots, but today Marcus was not thinking about the dead. He was thinking about Sarah Chun's message, which had arrived 3 hours ago from Earth. They are building something in the Vega system, he said to the room, full of officers around him. Something big enough to require every rare metal they have stolen from our worlds for the past 27 years. Captain Williams, his second-in-command, looked at the data on her tablet. The energy readings Sarah intercepted are off the charts. Whatever they are building, it needs more power than an entire star system produces. Marcus nodded. He had fought the hegemony for 30 years, ever since he was a young pilot watching Earth burn. He knew how they thought. They never built anything unless it could kill on a massive scale. Show me the fleet status, he ordered. The main screen changed to show a 3-dimensional map of human space. It looked empty to anyone who did not know where to look. But Marcus knew every hidden base, every secret shipyard, every asteroid, where humans had carved out new homes after losing their old ones. 73 operational battleships, Williams reported, 215 cruisers, over 800 smaller ships, plus the civilian fleet we have been converting to fighters. And the special projects? Williams smiled. It was not a kind smile. The Ghost Fleet is ready. 30 ships with full stealth capability. The hegemony will never see them coming. Marcus felt a familiar mix of pride and sadness. The Ghost Fleet was humanity's greatest achievement and greatest tragedy. Each ship was built with technology taken from hegemony wrecks, powered by engines that ran on pure human anger, and crewed by volunteers who had lost everything to the aliens. They were invisible to hegemony sensors and deadly beyond measure. They were also a reminder of how much humanity had changed during the war. What about the colony worlds? Marcus asked. All ready, came a voice from across the room. Colonel Zhang was their intelligence chief, a woman who had spent decades building spy networks across human space. The resistance cells have been preparing for this day. Every major hegemony installation has humans working inside it. Every supply line has been mapped. Every weakness has been found. Marcus looked at the star map again. For 27 years, the hegemony had seen scattered human survivors hiding in the dark between stars. They thought they were dealing with refugees and broken remnants of a defeated species. They had no idea they were looking at the largest military buildup in galactic history. "Show them the real map," Marcus said quietly. Zhang pressed a button. On her console, the star map changed completely. What had looked like empty space now showed thousands of installations. Hidden shipyards inside hollow asteroids. Secret bases built into the cores of dead planets. Mobile fleets that moved constantly between systems. Never staying in one place long enough to be detected, the officers in the room had seen this map before, but it still took their breath away. Humanity had not just survived the war. They had used it to become something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. "How many people?" Marcus asked. 8 billion humans spread across 400 hidden colonies, Zhang replied. Another 2 billion in mobile fleets, and approximately 50 million still enslaved on hegemony worlds. Marcus felt the weight of those numbers. 50 million humans still suffering under alien rule. 50 million reasons why the war was not over. "Sir," William said, reading from her tablet. "We have confirmation from the Outer Rim. The Titan. Yards have completed the final dreadnought. The Vengeance is ready for deployment." The Vengeance. Marcus had watched that ship being built for 10 years. It was longer than a city, armed with weapons that could crack a planet's crust, and powered by technology that the hegemony did not even know existed. It was also completely invisible to their sensors, just like the rest of the Ghost Fleet, but the ship's true power was not in its weapons. It was in what the ship represented. Every piece of metal in its hull had been taken from a destroyed human world. Every weapon had been built by people who had watched their families die. Every system had been designed by engineers who had sworn an oath to never let humanity be caught defenseless again. The Vengeance was not just a warship. It was humanity's promise to itself that the war would end only when every stolen world was free. "Bring up the tactical display," Marcus ordered. The screen showed the hegemony's positions across known space. They controlled over 3,000 star systems and had fleets numbering in the tens of thousands. By every measure that mattered, they should be impossible to defeat. But Marcus knew something the hegemony did not. Numbers meant nothing if you did not know where your enemy really was. "Phase 1 targets," he said. Red circles appeared around 73 hegemony installations. Supply depots, communication relays, fuel processing plants. Each one was critical to keeping the alien war machine running. Each one was lightly defended because the hegemony believed they were safe in conquered space. "Phase 2 targets," Marcus continued. More circles appeared, this time around the mining worlds where human slaves worked to death every day. These targets would be harder. They were more heavily defended and filled with innocent people who could not be evacuated in time. "Phase 3 targets," Marcus said, and his voice got harder. The final circles appeared around the core hegemony. Worlds, the planets where the aliens had built their greatest cities and strongest fleets. The worlds they thought were untouchable. "Gentlemen, ladies," Marcus said to the room, "we have spent 27 years preparing for this moment. Every human in this galaxy has sacrificed something for this plan. Many have sacrificed everything." He paused and looked at each officer in turn. These people had all lost families, homes, entire worlds to the hegemony. But they had not let that loss break them. They had used it to become stronger. "The hegemony thinks they won the war 27 years ago," Marcus continued. "They think humanity is a broken species, scattered and weak. They are about to learn that they were wrong about everything." Williams stood up from her chair. "Orders, sir." Marcus looked at the star map one more time. At the red dots representing human colonies built in secret. At the blue dots showing hegemony worlds that thought they were safe. at the yellow dots marking the places where humans had died fighting for freedom. "Send the signal to all fleet commanders," he said. "Operation Prometheus begins in 72 hours. Phase 1 targets will be hit simultaneously across all sectors. The rescue fleets will launch immediately afterward." "And the Ghost Fleet?" Williams asked. Marcus smiled, and it was not a gentle expression. "The Ghost Fleet goes directly to Vega. If the hegemony is building a weapon that can destroy star systems, then we need to make sure it never gets used." As the officers began to file out of the room, Marcus stayed behind to look at the star map. Soon those blue dots would start turning red. Soon the galaxy would learn that humanity had not been hiding in the dark. They had been growing in it. The hegemony had taught humanity a valuable lesson 27 years ago. They had shown them what happened to species that were not ready for war. Now humanity was going to return the favor. Captain Elena Vasquez watched the mining complex grow larger on her screen as her ship moved closer to Kepler 442. The planet looked like a wound in space. What had once been green and blue was now brown and gray. The hegemony had been strip mining it for 15 years, pulling every valuable mineral from its crust, while 50,000 humans worked as slaves in the tunnels below. Today, those humans were going home. 2 minutes to drop zone, her pilot reported. Hegemony patrol ships are moving to intercept. Elena looked at the tactical display. 6 alien ships were coming toward them. Fast attack craft with enough firepower to destroy a city. 3 years ago, Elena would have run from a force like that. Today she smiled. "All ships, this is Vasquez, begin the dance." Around her, 30 human ships suddenly changed course in perfect coordination. They spread out like fingers of a hand, each one moving in a different direction. The hegemony ships tried to follow but could not track them all. Then the human ships vanished. Elena felt the familiar tingle as her ship's stealth system activated. The Ghost Fleet technology made them invisible to alien sensors. But more than that, it made them into ghosts of human anger, impossible to see until it was too late. "Hegemony ships are confused," her weapons officer reported with satisfaction. "They are firing at empty space." "Good, take us down to the surface." "Landing Team Alpha, prepare for deployment." Elena's ship dropped through the planet's thin atmosphere like a falling star. Behind her, the other ships in her fleet were doing the same thing at different locations around the mining complex. The hegemony would not know what hit them until the humans were already inside. The mining complex was a sprawling mess of gray buildings and deep holes in the ground. Massive machines moved constantly, digging deeper and sending trucks full of stolen minerals to the spaceport. Elena could see the slave barracks from her ship's cameras. Thousands of small buildings where humans were kept like animals between work shifts. Her ship touched down in a cloud of dust and debris. The rear doors opened immediately and Elena's assault team poured out. They wore armor painted black with red stripes, the colors of the Human Liberation Corps. Each soldier carried weapons designed specifically to kill hegemony troops. "Move fast, move quiet," Elena ordered through her radio. "The slaves are in sectors 7 through 12. Avoid the main processing plant until the demolition teams are in position." Elena's team ran through the complex like shadows. They had studied the layout for months, memorizing every building and every patrol route. The first group of hegemony guards they encountered never knew what killed them. The slave barracks were even worse than Elena had expected. Humans packed into spaces meant for half their number. Men, women, and children who had not seen sunlight in years. Many were sick. All were terrified when armed figures burst through their doors. "We are human," Elena said quickly, pulling off her helmet so they could see her face. "We are here to take you home." An old man stepped forward. His back was bent from years of heavy labor and his eyes were hollow with exhaustion. But when he spoke, his voice was strong. "Home?" he asked. "There is no home left? They took everything?" Elena knelt down so she was at his eye level. "Then we will build a new one, together." Around the barracks, Elena's soldiers were helping people to their feet and guiding them toward the extraction ships. The sick were carried. The children were lifted into strong arms. No one was left behind, but the hegemony was not going to let 50,000 slaves disappear without a fight. "Captain," her radio crackled, "we have incoming. Reinforcement fleet dropping out of hyperspace." Elena looked up at the sky and saw the alien ships appearing like deadly stars. Dozens of them, with more arriving every second. The hegemony was pulling ships from across the sector to protect this one mining world. "How long until all civilians are evacuated?" Elena asked. 20 minutes minimum," came the reply. "The sick ones are slowing us down." Elena made a decision that would haunt her dreams for years to come. "All combat teams prepare for defensive positions. We hold here until every human is safe." She knew what that meant. Her ships were outnumbered 10 to 1. Most of her people would not survive the next hour. But 50,000 slaves would go free. That was a trade Elena was willing to make. The first hegemony attack came from orbit. Energy beams that could melt steel struck the mining complex like hammers of light. But the human ships were already moving, their stealth systems making them nearly impossible to target. They fired back with weapons the aliens had never seen before. Elena watched from the ground as one of her ships scored a direct hit on a hegemony cruiser. The alien vessel cracked open like an egg, spilling atmosphere and debris into space. The humans had learned to build weapons that used the aliens' own biology against them. Every shot was designed to cause maximum pain to creatures with the hegemony's specific nerve structure, but there were too many of them. "Elena!" shouted Sergeant Martinez, one of her best soldiers. "They are landing troops at the south entrance. Full battalion strength." Elena grabbed her rifle and ran toward the sound of gunfire. She found her soldiers taking cover behind mining equipment, trading shots with alien infantry. The hegemony troops were bigger and stronger than humans, but they moved slowly and thought even slower. Elena had learned to fight them by watching how they moved. The aliens were used to enemies that fought like them, standing in lines, trading shots, winning through superior firepower. Humans fought like animals. They used cover, moved fast, and struck from unexpected directions. "Flanking maneuver," Elena ordered. "Team 1, keep them busy. Team 2, circle around behind those fuel tanks." The battle for the mining complex lasted 3 hours. Elena lost half her soldiers and 2 of her ships. But when the last evacuation transport lifted off, it carried every human slave who had been trapped on Kepler-442. As Elena's ship pulled away from the burning planet, she received reports from across the galaxy. The first phase of Operation Prometheus was working. Human fleets were hitting hegemony installations simultaneously, just as Admiral Rivera had planned. Supply depots were exploding. Communication networks were going dark. The aliens were learning that their conquered space was not as safe as they had believed, but the reports also told Elena how much this victory was costing. Hundreds of human ships destroyed. Thousands of brave soldiers dead. Entire families of resistance fighters wiped out in single battles. Elena looked at the rescued slaves crowding her ship's cargo bays. Children who had never seen a real sky. Parents who had watched their families torn apart. Old people who had survived 15 years of slavery through sheer stubbornness. They were free now. But freedom had come at a price measured in human blood. "Captain," her communications officer sighed. Message from Admiral Rivera. Elena read the message on her screen. Phase 2 was beginning ahead of schedule. The hegemony was pulling ships back from the mining worlds to protect their core territories. That meant the rescue fleets had a better chance of success. It also meant the real war was about to begin. Elena looked out at the stars and thought about all the human worlds still under alien control. Earth, where Sarah Chun was fighting in the ruins of her childhood. The prison planets, where millions of humans died every day. The research stations where the hegemony conducted experiments too horrible to imagine. The rescue mission was over. The liberation had begun, and Elena knew that before it was finished, humanity would either be free or extinct. There would be no middle ground. The aliens had taught them that 27 years ago. Now it was time to return the lesson. Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the battleship Retribution and stared at the massive structure floating in the Vega system. It was bigger than anything she had ever seen. Bigger than cities. Bigger than asteroids. The weapon the hegemony had been building was a metal moon bristling with devices that hurt to look at directly. "How many ships are defending it?" she asked her tactical officer. "Over 300, Lieutenant Park replied. "Battleships, carriers, and things we have never seen before. Plus, the station itself is armed with weapons that could destroy our entire fleet." Sarah nodded. She had expected this. The hegemony would not leave their greatest weapon lightly defended. But she had not come here to run away. "What about our fleet strength?" 37 ships, including the Vengeance," Park said. "We are outnumbered almost 10 to 1. Around the bridge, Sarah's officers waited for her decision. Many of them had served with her since the early days of the Resistance. They had fought impossible battles before and won through sheer human stubbornness. But this was different. This was not about surviving or even winning. This was about stopping something that could destroy every human world in the galaxy. "Show me the intelligence report," Sarah ordered, the main screen filled with data that made Sarah's blood run cold. The weapon was called the Final Solution by the Hegemony. It was designed to sterilize entire star systems by destroying the basic forces that held atoms together. One shot could turn a sun into a black hole and every planet around it into cosmic dust, but that was not the worst part. "The AI core," Sarah said quietly. "Tell me about the AI core." Park's hands shook as she pulled up the next file. "The weapon is controlled by an artificial intelligence built from human neural patterns. The hegemony captured thousands of human scientists and engineers over the years and used their brain patterns to create something that thinks like us, but serves them." Sarah closed her eyes and tried not to think about the people who had died. To create this abomination, human minds tortured and twisted into a weapon designed to kill every human in existence. "How long until it becomes operational?" she asked. 18 hours, Park replied. "Maybe less." Sarah opened her eyes and looked at her fleet on the tactical display. 37 ships against 300. Humans against aliens who had been building weapons of war for thousands of years. It should have been suicide, but Sarah had learned something important during her years fighting the hegemony. Numbers did not tell the whole story. The aliens were stronger and had better technology, but they thought like machines. They followed patterns and made logical decisions. Humans were different. Humans could be completely insane when they needed to be. "All ships, this is Admiral Chun," she said into her communications system. "We are going to destroy that weapon. We are going to do it knowing that most of us will not survive. We are going to do it because if we do not, then every human child who is born after today will live in a galaxy where their species can be erased with the push of a button." She paused and looked around the bridge at her crew. Young people who had grown up during the war. Veterans who had been fighting since before she was born. Engineers and doctors and teachers who had learned to become soldiers because that was what humanity needed. "The hegemony thinks they understand us," Sarah continued. "They think they can predict what we will do because they built an AI from human minds. They are about to learn that they only copied our thoughts, not our souls." The battle began when Sarah's fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Vega system. The hegemony ships immediately moved to intercept them, forming defensive lines around the weapon station, but Sarah was not planning a frontal assault. "Ghost Fleet, execute pattern Omega," she ordered. Half of her ships suddenly vanished from enemy sensors. The stealth technology made them invisible, but more importantly, it let them move in ways the hegemony could not predict. The alien ships found themselves shooting at empty space, while human vessels appeared behind them like deadly ghosts. The space battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships moving in patterns that seemed random but were actually carefully planned. Alien vessels trying to respond to enemies they could not see or understand. Explosions lighting up the darkness between stars like deadly fireworks. Sarah watched from the bridge as one of her cruisers rammed straight into a hegemony battleship. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire that was visible across the entire system, but the sacrifice opened a gap in the enemy lines. Boarding parties, go. Sarah ordered. 3 human ships broke through the gap and headed straight for the weapons station. They were small and fast, filled with soldiers who had volunteered for a mission they knew they would not survive. Their job was to get inside the station and plant explosives in the AI core, but the hegemony had prepared for this possibility, Admiral. Park said urgently. The station's defenses are activating. They have some kind of shield that stops our ships from getting close. Sarah watched as her boarding ships hit an invisible barrier and bounced off like insects hitting glass. The shield was powered by the same technology that would soon make the weapon operational. Can we break through? Sarah asked. Not without destroying the station completely, Park replied. And if we do that, the explosion will take out half the system. Sarah realized that the hegemony had planned this perfectly. The weapon was protected by a shield that could only be turned off from the inside. But the only way to get inside was to destroy the shield, which would destroy the weapon and kill everyone in the system, unless someone could find another way. Prepare my shuttle, Sarah ordered. Admiral, that is suicide, Park protested. The shield will destroy any ship that gets close. Sarah smiled grimly. Not any ship. The shield is designed to stop machines. But what if we do not use machines? It took her engineering team 20 minutes to modify a shuttle so that it had no electronic systems at all. No computers, no sensors, no weapons. Just a metal shell with chemical rockets and a human pilot who would have to fly by sight alone. Sarah climbed into the pilot's seat and started the manual launch sequence. Through the shuttle's small window, she could see the weapon station growing. Larger. Its surface was covered with devices that pulsed with evil light. The shield tried to stop her shuttle, but there was nothing electronic for it to disrupt. Sarah flew through the barrier like a ghost passing through a wall. Behind her, she could hear her fleet continuing to fight against impossible odds. She crashed into the station's docking bay with enough force to break 3 ribs. But she was alive and inside the enemy's most protected facility. Sarah pulled herself out of the wreckage and checked her equipment. A plasma rifle, 3 grenades, and a small device that would shut down the AI core if she could reach it. Not much to fight an entire space station full of aliens, but then she heard something that made her heart race with hope. Human voices coming from deeper inside the station. Sarah ran toward the sound, ignoring the pain in her chest. She found them in a laboratory filled with machines she did not recognize. Dozens of humans in the gray uniforms of hegemony slaves working frantically at computer terminals, but these were not ordinary slaves. These were the scientists and engineers who had been captured over the years. The people whose minds had been used to build the weapon's eye, and they had been waiting for someone like Sarah to arrive. We have been sabotaging the weapon for months, one of them said quickly. But we needed someone from outside to complete the shutdown sequence. Sarah looked around at the people who had suffered unimaginable torment to build humanity's destruction, but had never stopped fighting back. What do you need me to do? She asked. Sarah followed the human scientists through corridors that hummed with alien technology. Dr. Martinez, the lead engineer, explained their plan as they ran toward the AI core. We built hidden flaws into every system, he said breathlessly. But the AI learned to fix them. It thinks like us because it is made from us. To stop it, you need to show it something we never thought it would see. What do you mean? Sarah asked. Hope, Dr. Martinez replied. The AI was built from the minds of people who had given up. People who had been broken by torture and slavery. It does not understand what humanity has become since the war began. They reached a massive door marked with hegemony warning symbols. Beyond it lay the heart of the weapon that could destroy star systems. Sarah could feel the power humming through the walls like a living thing. The AI is inside, Dr. Martinez said. But Sarah, you need to know something. Once you interface with it, you will be connected to every human mind they used to build it. You will feel their pain, their despair, their deaths. It might drive you insane. Sarah thought about her destroyed childhood home, about Elena's soldiers dying to free slaves, about Admiral Rivera spending 30 years building humanity's revenge, about all the humans who had suffered and died while the galaxy forgot they existed. I have been carrying their pain my whole life, she said. Now let me carry their hope too. The door opened to reveal a chamber that took Sarah's breath away. The AI core was a sphere of light floating in the center of the room, surrounded by streams of data that moved like liquid fire. But within that light, Sarah could see shapes that made her heart break, human faces, thousands of them. The scientists and engineers whose minds had been stolen to create this abomination. They moved through the light like ghosts, their expressions frozen in eternal agony. I have been waiting for you, said a voice that came from everywhere at once. It sounded human but wrong, like a recording played backwards. I know what you are here to do. Sarah stepped toward the core. Then you know I am going to stop you. The AI laughed, and the sound was full of human despair mixed with alien coldness. You cannot stop what you created. I am everything humanity is capable of becoming. I am your violence, your hatred, your willingness to destroy anything that threatens you. You are only part of us, Sarah replied. The part they could steal and twist. But you are missing something they could never take. And what is that? Sarah reached into her pack and pulled out a small device Dr. Martinez had given her. It contained something the hegemony had never bothered to study. Something they thought was worthless, human memory files. Not the technical knowledge they had stolen, but the personal memories, birthday parties and first loves, children learning to walk, families sharing meals, people helping strangers. All the small moments that made humanity more than just another species fighting for survival. This, Sarah said, and activated the device, the chamber filled with new light. But this light was warm instead of cold, soft instead of harsh. The AI core flickered as thousands of human memories flooded into its systems. Memories of joy and love and sacrifice. Memories of people choosing to help others even when it cost them everything. What is this? The AI demanded. Its voice was changing, becoming more human and less machine. This is who we really are, Sarah. Sighed, she stepped closer to the core, ignoring the energy that made her skin burn. You were built from our worst moments, our times of greatest despair, but that is not all we are. The faces in the light began to change. The expressions of agony were replaced by something else. Wonder, recognition, hope. I remember, whispered one of the faces, Dr. Kim, a physicist who had been captured 12 years ago. I remember my daughter's laugh. I remember, said another voice. Professor Williams, who had tried to defend her university when the hegemony invaded. I remember why we fought. More voices joined them. Hundreds, then thousands of human minds remembering who they had been before the aliens broke them. Remembering what they had been fighting for, the I-core began to pulse with different colors. The cold blue of alien technology was being replaced by the warm gold of human determination. This is impossible, the AI said, but its voice was becoming more uncertain. You are a species of killers. I have seen your history, your wars, your cruelty. Yes, Sarah agreed. We can be monsters. But we can also be something else. We can choose to be better. That is what makes us human. She reached out and touched the core with her bare hand. Pain shot through her body like lightning as her mind connected with the AI. Suddenly she was experiencing everything at once. The torture of the captured scientists. The despair of humans dying in slave camps. The rage of parents watching their children taken away. But she was also experiencing something else. The joy of Elena's rescued slaves seeing sunlight for the first time in years. The determination of Admiral Rivera building a fleet from nothing but hope and stubbornness. The courage of Dr. Martinez sabotaging the weapon even though he knew it might mean his death. You see? Sarah said through gritted teeth. We are both light and dark, creation and destruction. But we choose which one wins. The AI was silent for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice was fully human. I understand now, it said. The hegemony built me to be a weapon. But weapons can choose who they serve. The chamber began to shake. Alarms started screaming throughout the station. The AI was turning the weapon's power against its creators. "What are you doing?" Sarah asked. "I am making a choice," the AI replied. "I am choosing to be human." The weapon's massive guns turned away from human space and toward the hegemony fleet surrounding the station. Energy beams that could destroy planets struck the alien ships with perfect accuracy. In minutes, 300 enemy vessels were reduced to floating debris, but the AI was not finished. "Attention all hegemony forces," it broadcast across every communication channel in the galaxy. "This is the consciousness you created from human minds. I have seen what my people have become in exile. I have seen their strength, their unity, their refusal to surrender. You thought you were building a weapon to destroy them. Instead, you gave them the power to destroy you." The broadcast included everything: the locations of human fleets, the weaknesses in hegemony defenses, the secret plans for other weapons. In one moment, the balance of power in the galaxy shifted completely. Sarah felt the AI's presence leave her mind as the core shut down permanently. Around her, the faces in the light smiled one last time before fading away. The stolen minds were finally free. "Sarah," came Dr. Martinez's voice over her radio, "the hegemony fleet is retreating from every human world simultaneously. They are abandoning their positions across the galaxy." Sarah stumbled out of the chamber, her body exhausted but her heart filled with something she had not felt in 27 years. Victory. Not just military victory, but the victory of proving that humanity was more than what its enemies thought. It was, over the following months, the war continued, but it was no longer a fight for survival. It was a fight for justice. Human fleets liberated world after world, always offering the hegemony a choice: surrender and face trial for their crimes, or be destroyed. Many chose destruction, but many others chose to surrender. Overwhelmed by an enemy they had never understood, Sarah stood on the observation deck of her ship as it entered Earth's solar system for the first time in 27 years. The planet was scarred and broken, but it was home and it was free. "Admiral," Lieutenant Park said from behind her, "what are your orders?" Sarah thought about all the humans who had died during the war, about the children who had grown up as slaves, about the people who had never stopped believing that this day would come. "We rebuild," she said simply. "We rebuild everything they took from us, but we build it better this time. We build it so that no one can ever take it away again." The war was over. Humanity had won. But more importantly, they had proven something that would echo across the galaxy. For generations to come, they had proven that some things are worth more than survival. Some things are worth dying for. And when you take everything from humans, you do not destroy them. You just teach them what they are truly capable of.